Jujutsu Kaisen and Tokyo Revengers are two sides of the same coin. Now, you probably read that title and or thumbnail and called me an absolute idiot or gave me a second to cook. Anyways, if you guys like this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. It helps me out a ton. And let's get right into this shit. In this video, I'm going to be going through a couple reasons why I think that these two series are the two sides of the same coin, but one inevitably failed where one inevitably succeeded. So anyways, first we have to look into each of these stories' backstories. Jujutsu Kaisen first aired in 2020 when the manga was super duper popular already, kind of like Chainsaw Man, where everyone was hyping it up and waiting for it to get an adaptation by Studio Mappa, the same studio that adapted Attack on Titan. As soon as the anime came out, it immediately exploded. But I feel like JJK wouldn't have reached its inevitable popularity if it wasn't for a certain factor. This factor is Satoru Gojo. He's literally the driving force of JJK at this point in the story, and he's quite literally the most interesting character in the entire series by far at this point in the story. On top of that, Satoru Gojo appears to every single number of crowd. If you want a character that's just super strong and cool for kids, you've got him. If you want a character that's pretty well written, you've got him. If you got a character with super sick powers that can be in power scaling debates, you got him. Satoru Gojo was completely appealing to every single fandom in the anime community. Even the women simped over him, which is one thing that your fandom really needs to have if you're a big fandom nowadays. Now, after the first season of JJK, there was an inevitable spike in the manga sales. Obviously, with any single new series that comes out, there's going to be a spike in the manga sales, but JJK was different. People already claimed this to be a classic on the level of Demon Slayer and all these other animes. Now, let's move on to Tokyo Revengers. A couple months after Jujutsu Kaisen Season 1 ended, another manga by the name of Tokyo Revengers ended up getting an anime. Now, unlike JJK's anime, Tokyo Revengers was still getting manga sales pretty decently well at a nice pace before it was adapted, but after it was adapted, Tokyo Revengers completely blew up with the opening for the show being very popular and being played literally everywhere. A difference between these two shows is, though Tokyo Revengers is more plot driven, Jujutsu Kaisen was way more of a better adaptation and had more fights to back it up on top of the plot. Another thing is the adaptation of Tokyo Revengers wasn't the greatest in terms of animation, but like I said, the plot used to really carry it. Just like Jujutsu Kaisen's plot, I wouldn't say is the best plot ever, but I'd say it's still a good plot, but the fights really made it appeal to a larger shonen demographic a lot more than Tokyo Revengers did. Nonetheless, in 2021, both these mangas were doing insane numbers and just going crazy side by side. Although once Tokyo Revengers and Jujutsu Kaisen Season 1 finally ended, there was one arc from each series that was always talked about. These are the two arcs that are the climax of each of these series, in my opinion, respectfully. And I think that these two arcs are the biggest in both of the series, that every manga reader will claim you that you have to read and that it's a 10 out of 10. The two arcs I'm talking about is, of course, the Shibuya incident in Jujutsu Kaisen and the Tenjiku arc in Tokyo Revengers. Both these arcs hold big plot changing and narrative changing developments that happen, big developments with the MC, big developments with the side cast, but there's one problem. In Tokyo Revengers arc, the Tenjiku arc, this series basically comes to a halt, while Jujutsu Kaisen sets up for the future. As the Tenjiku arc basically wrapped up its main antagonist at that point, Kisaki Tera, Jujutsu Kaisen basically unveiled its main antagonist at that point, which is Kenjaku, which is the big problem between the two series. Tokyo Revengers was looking to end after its main antagonist Kisaki died, but after I think the recent blew up at the anime, Tokyo Revengers just kept going into a second final arc. Now, I'm not saying that this arc isn't needed, because it definitely was, with the plot line of Mikey going crazy, continuously developing over the arcs. We definitely needed this arc, although I don't think that the author planned for it. With the start of the Three Deities arc being a very well executed arc, I'm pretty sure, and bringing in new viewers, bringing in new characters, bringing in new hype, it also showed us two characters for the very first time in the series on the same level as Mikey, which brought the hype even higher, along with the increasing stakes. But they made one problem that the fandom did not like, and that's killing off a fan favorite character, Draken. Draken has been a fan favorite character ever since Season 1 dropped, and I'd say that he's even on par with Mikey up there in popularity at this point. But yeah, ever since his death, a whole lot of people ended up dropping Tokyo Revengers because of the overuse of just feeling like this arc is useless and that we killed Draken for no reason. Even though that's not the case, I feel like this arc is very useful, but the majority of the people online did not feel that way. After the death of Draken and a badly executed climax to the Three Deities arc, Tokyo Revengers hype had all but came to a halt. This isn't even the worst of it, because in the next arc, where we get a little downtime, the fandom gets a little time to rest after the crazy arc that was the last arc, we also get to see a chapter 242, which just completely upset the entire fandom even more. They already thought that this arc was pretty unnecessary, but then you go and kill off Draken and make Mikey's motives for having, or I know this wasn't actually the reason why he has dark impulses, but at this point, everyone was so reactionary that they just said, fuck it, this is the reason, let's drop Tokyo Revengers. And from this point on, Tokyo Revengers went on to become, previously, from one of the best new gen and one of the most loved new gen on the internet, to one of the most hated manga, not new gen, manga of all time. Along with the ending just absolutely being terribly written and everything up to it being trash and not Tokyo Revengers-esque, Tokyo Revengers ended up falling off of a cliff because of an arc that was dragged out for way too long and the author had no idea what to do with it. Now, let's go back to Jujutsu Kaisen. The reason why I think these two series are similar is because the Culling Games arc is a great arc, but at this point, I feel like Jujutsu Kaisen kind of loses what made it different from other shonen in the beginning. Jujutsu Kaisen wasn't just a straight fight fest, it was a dark fantasy about a whole lot of politics and everything like that. It also brought together the message of strength and a whole bunch of nice themes that the characters represented. Now, granted, I did like the segment with Yuji and Higuruma in this arc. I feel like it's the only segment that really kept me intrigued and made me care about these characters that were on the screen. Almost every other segment was just a straight fight. Now, I'm not saying that these fights had no substance, which they most definitely did. It just got me so burnt out to the point where it was just 40 chapters of just straight fighting. And I know that's the point of a battle royale, but I feel like if Geiji really made this into a tournament arc like he said he would, it would have made for a more entertaining arc. Either way, the fan favorite Gojo gets unsealed, and this is when the story goes from kind of mid to slow pacing to balls to the wall, super fast pacing, as we only get a couple chapters before the most long-awaited fight in the entire series, Sukuna versus Gojo. Now, to say the fight didn't disappoint, it did not. Bro, this fight was literally everywhere, and it had damn near the entire anime community and people outside of it waiting for the victor. This fight will definitely go down in history as one of the greatest fights of all time, regardless of whether you think it's one of the most best written or anything like that. It is definitely a very great fight. Along with this and the beautiful adaptation of Season 2, Jujutsu Kaisen went to another level that I didn't think another series after Demon Slayer would, and it literally ascended anime. It went to a whole new plane that only Demon Slayer, Attack on Titan, and a couple others have reached. Jujutsu Kaisen at this point was at its absolute peak. That is until Gojo had died. Now, the main problem with the thing is, having a fight this grand in scale is because some people would just pick up the series to watch this fight or read this fight and not really care about much of the series after that or even before that. They would only care about one or two characters, and then after that, one of them would die, they would drop the series altogether, which is exactly what happened. Geiji had ended up killing his most popular and most fan favorite character, which got a lot of people angry with the way he died too, given he was off-screen, but still, this brought a real big trench in the goddamn JJK community with Sukuna's eventual win. Now, the coming chapters after this, the hype was still very much there as everyone was still looking at the leaks, but you can feel as the weeks passed by and started creeping up, the manga started to fall down a little bit. As we got a whole month of just chapters of Takaba and Kenjaku playing some stupid fight with each other just for Kenjaku, the main villain, who has barely done much up till this point except for kill Yuki, just get one tap by Yuta. This is the second thorn in JJK's cycle, as we literally see the main villain, just like Kisaki, I'd say, go out in a very unsatisfying way. Now, Kisaki and Kenjaku are both excellent foils to the story of Jujutsu Kaisen, but I'd say Kisaki's motivations are what let people astray from Tokyo Revengers because they were just so childish, you know what I'm saying? They didn't make much sense either. And then Kenjaku is just very underutilized. People were expecting him to be something that he's not, and he wasn't. And his abrupt death really made people angry as well. Now, the last thing that really people complain about JJK is the endless fighting that has been going on for the last year of it after Gojo died. JJK has been continuous fighting against Final Form Sukuna, and it had this cycle where it's just new character appears, new character uses a new ability, they look like they're going to win, Sukuna actually starts trying and defeats them. That's how it goes. This was a cycle for a couple months, I'm not going to lie. And ever since Geiji had ended that cycle, I won't lie, the series has been getting better again. But that cycle had made a lot of people just up and drop the series. Now, in summer 2023, if you were to ask someone on the street that what's their favorite ongoing series right now, it'd probably be Jujutsu Kaisen, and you probably wouldn't get any other answer from that. But now I'd say people would have the opposite opinion. I don't think people like Jujutsu Kaisen as much. You can check the negative feedback on JJK hate tweets on Twitter. The new chapters are always controversial, and I mean every single chapter that comes out is always controversial. But I feel like Jujutsu Kaisen is a different side of the coin from Tokyo Revengers, because where Tokyo Revengers failed, Jujutsu Kaisen still had that adaptation to keep it popular. I feel like at this point, Jujutsu Kaisen had enough fuel and enough of a fan base to cleanly say that it's never falling off. Every big event that happens in Jujutsu Kaisen for the rest of history until it runs is going to be popular. Jujutsu Kaisen is never going to fall off like Tokyo Revengers, and I feel like this has a lot of factors to play into it, but mostly just because Jujutsu Kaisen is had more time to just have people love it. Tokyo Revengers had a limited amount of time. It had season 1, and then the manga abruptly started falling apart after season 1. With Jujutsu Kaisen wrapping up in a couple chapters, what do you guys think the anime's ending will be? Anyways, leave it down below in the comments. And yeah, man, let me know what you guys thought about Tokyo Revengers back in 2021, because I know now the opinion would probably be negative. But yeah, hope you guys like this video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and bye-bye.